I don't know why it does that. It's pretty bad. I mean, hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Typical Skeptic podcast. We're up to episode number 1989, so that means we're going to be getting close to the 2000th show soon, and I'm excited about that because I'm going to do something special for it. And I have an amazing guest with me today. She's an investigative writer, she's a lecturer, and a researcher based in Olympia, Washington. I have with me Elana Freeland, whose work bridges deep secrets from geoengineering and MK Ultra, neural operations to invasive electromagnetic weaponry and transhumanist agendas. Her latest book, The Geoengineered Transhuman, probes the convergence of HARP, chemtrails, 5G, 6G, synthetic biology, nanotechnology, and the looming transformation of humanity itself. And I'd like to give her a big warm welcome to the show. Elana, thank you so much for coming on for the first time. How are you?
Oh, I'm fine. Thank you so much, Rob.
Yeah. So I usually when someone comes on for the first time, I like to say, like, how did this all start for you? Like, take us through your journey a little bit.
Absolutely. And do you know how long the show is going to go?
Probably. I mean, it could go from an hour to an hour and 10 minutes. I usually like an hour, but like if it gets real deep, we might go like a little bit over. But I definitely want to work out tonight and stuff too, so I don't want to go too long. You know.
Okay, I will follow your guidance. Um,
Okay.
yeah, I have been in this, I suppose you could call it an anti-geoengineering movement, which has been mostly an internet movement, because this is a highly classified, geoengineering is a highly classified program that is lied about consistently to the public. And so most people don't think it's that big of a deal. They think it has to do with the story they're told about climate change and global warming, but it's really far more. It's actually a weapon system run by the military and the secret space program, which you may not have heard of. But Catherine Austin Fitts definitely has talked about the secret space program and how $21 trillion is missing from the American budget. And it is posited that it may actually have gone into the secret space program. So it's a big deal. And I've written 4 books on it so far. I have one more to go. Hopefully, that'll be my last because I will have expended my best efforts to awaken the public to the tremendous danger of this technology that is presented in an entirely innocuous way, but it is based on lies. So I
I got a question to ask you. I just wanted to say that, like, I don't know if you did any research on my show, but I interview a lot of people who say they've been involved in the secret space program. You know what I mean? I
oh, you
mean,
do?
so yeah, oh yeah. And I've had someone who comes on and he's, pretty much proven that solar wardens existing. His name's Peter Fuller. He's written fiction books called the Solar Warden series, but like, it's we know NASA's lying to us, right? So when you
Okay,
said secret
great.
space program, you're really speaking my language because we know NASA's lying to us, right? But then we also know that, like you said, all this money's gone missing. And then it's weird. You have the accounts of all the people in my community who think they've been involved in some kind of clandestine black ops program. Why would all these people be getting memories back if something really didn't happen? But my question for you is, I think that's all fascinating. But what I find even more fascinating is how the geoengineering ties into the secret space program. I was wondering if you could touch on that first.
Oh yeah, no, I'm gonna definitely go into that because that's basically where I spend all my time. I don't talk about UFOs or UAPs. I don't talk about the MK Ultra program that is uh, has primarily programmed people for the secret space program. I mean, there's a lot to the secret space program, but that's not my bailiwick. I don't have the proper access to the levels I would need in order to write the kinds of books that I write. But in the geoengineering, the interesting thing is it's highly classified, as I told you, but just about everything about it, at least to my satisfaction, is on the internet. The problem is it's spread all over the place, rather like if you were to take the Isis and Osiris myth of Egypt, in which Osiris is killed by his brother Set, and his body is chopped up into 14 pieces and spread all over the Nile Delta. And then Isis, the sister of Osiris, has the job of finding all those pieces in order to put together that murder and prove it. So that's kind of the same thing here. All the pieces appear to me, at least to my level, appear to me to be on the internet. But if you don't have the research capacity and perspicacity to be able to find those pieces and put them together in a contextual way that is convincing for people to be able to follow as being true, then you can have this program for 25 years, which they have had, right in full view, and nobody recognizes it. Nobody sees it because they know what they're doing by taking away the context so that when they talk about it in the news, other than recently some things have happened since Mr. Trump took office. But before, they would just kind of throw a little bit out here and a little bit out there to make it sound like it was just another part of the daily news cast. And it had to do with climate change, and it had to do with making things better than they would be without geoengineering. That is changing now, and they are going to have a different narrative. They are making a new narrative so that the public only knows so much about the geoengineering, such as weather warfare. Looks like they're prepared to admit that geoengineering is definitely involved in weather warfare and in political agendas. But they are not going to allow us to go where I go, which is I am tying together what is dumped on us from the sky so that we breathe it and drink it in our water supply and eat it in the GMO foods. We are being prepared for transhumanism, a transhuman agenda and generation. And that's the key. They do not want that to come out as being anything other than a silly hoax or conspiracy theory or tinfoil hat thing. And I understand that. That's why I'm constantly marginalized, despite having written 4 footnote loaded books about this program of the secret space program. And how it serves is what you want me to answer. It serves through the chemistry that is involved in what's dumped on us, through the nanotechnology, which can be used for transceiver operations. In other words, for things being sent out from people who have breathed in nanotechnology and have it in their tissues, in their brain, to where the programming itself by 5G and 6G can be sent in via that nanotechnology in order to program that person for behavior changes, mental changes, emotional changes. All of that is going on through this, what I call the HARP program, because HARP plays a very big role in this. And HARP is the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Project. And it is loaded right around it. You see one lie after another, like the most recent lie that I come up against all the time, even in radio interviewers, is, oh, that's from the past. We don't have that anymore. That was closed down in 2013. Well, no, it wasn't closed down in 2013, though they made it appear that it was being passed as a vehicle for experimentation in the atmosphere and the ionosphere. It was made to seem that, oh, DARPA had taken it as far as they could. We are now passing it to the University of Alaska at Fairbanks, and they will be renting the space for people to continue their experiments with whatever they're doing. That is not true. HARP is definitely primary as part of this huge weapon system that actually makes the atomic bomb look like kindergarten. So this is Tesla tech. And as you know, if you go to grad school now in science and physics and plasma physics, whatever, you will hardly ever encounter the name Tesla. I mean, that's graduate school level. I'm not talking about an undergrad. And the reason for that is they want you to remember Tesla as the guy, the very bright guy who gave us alternate current, unlike direct current. But Tesla was so much more than that, that you know they're hiding something about him. And I've done a great deal of research on him. And I'm proud to say that my first book that came out in 2014, Chemtrails, HARP, and the Full Spectrum Dominance of Planet Earth, has been translated into Serbian, which is Tesla's home nation and home language. And that book itself in Serbian, I think it had the alphabet is Karelian or something like that, is in all the technical colleges in the nation of Serbia as additional reading that people can do. Why did they choose my book to translate? Because I'm probably, to my knowledge, the only one writing about how Tesla's science has been weaponized by the West. And I'm very clear that that is exactly what has happened. So I think that's the reason they honored me as they have.
That's amazing. One thing I wanted to ask you about real quick is this is not, it's kind of a side note, but not really because it ties in. And I wanted to see how much you knew about it. Like, I interview a lot of targeted individuals as well, you know, and a lot of the things it sounds like you talk about ties into the targeted individual program. Like, but it seems like this whole I mean, I know there's the target individuals. Matter of fact, there's a few target individuals in the chat right now, but what I know that ties in, but like I know what's happening with the chemtrails is it's happening to the whole world. It's happening. It seems like it's some kind of like, I know this is going to sound wild, but like some kind of terraforming by reptilians. Like, and I'm not afraid to go there. You know what I mean? Because I always say the things that happen to humans are very inhumane. And it's like, why would somebody want to poison our air, poison our food, poison our water, put stuff in our arms that is not healthy for us, that, you know, can have adverse reaction, that can form self-assembling nanites that then people can use to target you with, you know, some places like DARPA and the DoD and stuff like that. Do you get where I'm going with this?
Yeah, I do. And let's take it piece by piece. All right. So you are right that this geoengineering program, because of the role played by the ionosphere and the ionospheric heaters, that's what HARP is a big ionospheric heater. It's not the only one in the world. There are, well, there are hundreds now. A lot of them are smaller, much smaller, and mobile. They have used the ionospheric heater to be able to heat something to extraordinary temperatures in order to use the phased array antenna system, which if you want to see what it looks like, you just look at a picture of HARP up in Gakona, Alaska, and you'll see acreage of these microwave antennas. The difference between that kind of antenna and the old antenna that we're accustomed to seeing, like up on a building where it's picking up radio waves for the TV that's in the house. You see that, and that's a radial setup. This is not. This is a phased array antenna whereby each small unit of the antennas can come together and force energy into one concerted beam. And this is where the targeting is able to be done by anything with phased array antennas. And unfortunately, cell phones are one thing that have the phased array antennas. They're tiny. They're not like up in HARP, up in Alaska. Those are big, but they do the same thing, and they are used to target people. So I always say and I know quite a few targeted individuals, believe me, over the years. I always say to them, you really shouldn't be carrying a cell phone around. It's a very powerful weapon system. Not only can they dial you in with their cell phone very easily, but then they can use this phased array antenna to actually beam assaults on the brain. So, tinnitus in a way is right along those lines, because of course tinnitus is a sign that there is some sort of electromagnetic connectivity going on in your head. So besides the fact that the targeting can happen, there's another very little known fact about HARP. And this comes from the scientist Clifford Carnicom, whom I've worked with for a couple of decades. Clifford he used to work as a chemist and what do you call that? He was a tech for very sophisticated computer systems. He worked for the DoD, Department of Defense, and he also worked for the BLM, the Bureau of Land Management, but eventually quit all the big orgs because he realized where they were going with the tech, and he didn't want to go there. So I ran into him, and this goes into your first question about how I got involved in all this. I ran into Clifford at a breakfast in the early 2000s in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And I was living there. Actually, it was when I was in grad school, I think in 1996, at St. John's College. And we began to chat about what he was doing. And it turned out that he was watching what was happening in the atmosphere over northern New Mexico of all these jets that were leaving not only detritus behind them, and it really wasn't contrails, it was chemtrails. And Clifford knew this because he's a chemist and he knows chemical signatures. And so he began to document what he was seeing and collecting various things coming down in the wake of these jets that were flying in the stratosphere. Some of them were passenger jets, some of them were military jets, but it was both. It was both. That's very important to know, because all the passenger jets, the commercial airlines, the pilots of those jets had to sign non-disclosure agreements, NDAs, and that's the system I write about, which was originally called Operation, not Paperclip. I was jumping to the Nazis there. I'll remember in a minute. And that's the operation I write about, where these NDAs have been signed. All the airlines are on board, or at least almost all of them, I suppose. And this started in the 90s, the late 90s, after they had HARP up. And HARP was pretty much built in the 90s up in Gakona, Alaska. And when they eventually got it going in the late 90s, Nick Begich wrote a book about it. He and Gene Manning, and the name of the book was Angels Don't Play This HARP.
Yeah, he was on this.
right?
This is so crazy. I was an Art Bell fan, and there's a guy. He has a channel on Rumble. He's watching right now. He has an Art Bell channel, and I think he has that episode up, or it's on someone's channel. Like when Nick Begich came on Art Bell back in the day and talked about harp. Were you an Art Bell fan? Do you remember? Do you remember Art Bell at all?
I wouldn't say I'm an Art Bell fan, but I definitely have been on Coast to Coast with George Norrie a few times. Each time I
Oh,
have
that's
a
awesome.
each time I have a book that comes out, George invites me. So now I have done another interview that will be playing, I don't know, at some point soon, not by George Norrie, but by Cheryl Jones, I want to say her name
Yeah,
is.
she's their investigative journalist. She's their
Yes,
investigative
and
journalist.
she
Yeah.
interviewed me last year and she interviewed me this year about this new book. So okay, so back with Clifford and me, back in the day, as I'm what he was most interested in, besides the fact that he was measuring the atmosphere and seeing that they were actually changing the entire atmosphere, not just over Santa Fe. People think because it's an atmosphere that you would only be able to control maybe a little bit, over your area where you have instruments. No, this is the atmosphere is that we breathe from is like one huge what balloon, shall we say that?
Yeah.
It's We all breathe from the atmosphere. All the people of the earth breathe from that. All the animals breathe from it. All the trees breathe from it. So this is crucial to understand that to change the atmosphere is well, what shall we call it? A human rights violation? Shall we call it biowarfare? Where shall we begin and where shall we end? That's the key to the secrets that can be kept under the 1947 National Security Act that founded the CIA. Two bad things that happened that year: founded the CIA and founded the World Health Organization. So, this all is of a piece, and it's not something that just sort of happened and they went too far and they made a mistake and they feel sorry about it, but they don't want to say anything and they want to, non-disclosure. No, this is all part of the transhuman piece. And what I mean by transhuman, since a lot of people don't seem to know what that means, if you think of Ray Kurzweil and his books, he is now the head of Google University, I believe, and he is the one who defined it as a post-human era. And what he means by that is that the human being, the body of the human being, let's just go with the body at this point, is being changed into something different. And this it makes sense that they would use geoengineering for this because that's entirely planetary and it's entirely atmospheric. So this has been looked forward to by the elites, by the secret societies that I'm sure you've had people on who've talked about, all of and the secret space program, of course. All of this has to do with, have you ever heard the name of Kardashev?
Yeah, but I'm not real familiar, but I do know that name for some reason.
Okay, so Kardashev is very, very important. He was a Soviet astronomer, and I think the first person who wrote about him here in the West was Joseph Farrell, who's written some very interesting
I love
books about
Farrell.
all this.
I
Yes,
love yeah, I
all
love
this
Farrell.
secret stuff. And Joseph also writes, we correspond about plasma because we're both interested in plasma. But anyway, he wrote a book called Covert Wars and Breakaway Civilizations in 2012, and it's in there that you run across the name of Nikolai Kardashev, a Soviet astronomer who said that any civilization that seeks to be great has to have a technological achievement level. It has to obtain that. And that includes three steps, three major steps. The first step is full spectrum dominance. That's a military doctrine, by the way, of the US military. Full spectrum dominance of planetary control. What they mean by that, by full spectrum, is they're talking about the electromagnetic spectrum primarily, where you control the entire spectrum. We have only the visible spectrum available to us that we can sense with our five senses.
We see like 1 to 5%, right? It's like 1 to 5%.
Very tiny, very tiny. We can't see at one end with the microwaves. We can't see at the other end with the gamma rays. So, we're very limited in that. But we have instruments now that can see and can measure on those levels. So that's the first thing, full spectrum dominance of the planet. Second, full spectrum dominance control over our star, which is the sun. They have already begun that. They have, you saw that that geoengineered solar eclipse last summer, right? That was not a real eclipse. That was engineered. And then the third level is control over our planetary system. That's all our 7 or 8 or 9 planets, and control over the galaxy. So it sounds like, they've had too much to drink, or that they're shooting too high. But when you think of how much they've been able to do, even in the first few decades of this millennium, it's definitely impressive. But behind that are a lot of deaths, a lot of lies, subterfuge, all sorts of things that on the moral level, and I think every civilization needs to be also measured for its moral standing. On the moral level, it's bad news. It's very bad news. And that's why I'm obsessively writing these books, is each book indicates a certain level of engineering achievement. And I try to explain how, for example, in the first book, I spend a lot of time explaining how the weather is controlled, completely controlled, because our weather is completely controlled now. There is no natural weather. These clouds are made of plasma. These are not natural clouds that we have now. So, that has to be said. We have to not live in la-la land as we're led by the nose by corporate controlled media that do what the elite want done. But we must pursue the truth about the technologies being used in our era. That is our job. And in my way of speaking, and I don't know if you know this, Rob, but I'm a student of Rudolf Steiner. In my estimation, one of the primary things we are to do when we come here, of course, everyone will not do this because all the billions of people on the planet are at different phases of development, of course. But those of us who are definitely committed to developing themselves to be I don't know what you call it, a high human being, the highest, the high self of the human being, whatever you want to call it. Our job is to examine the era we chose to incarnate into, and really look at what is going on here and weigh it in the measure that gods would use, not men, not greedy, atavistic men who are seeking to be, king of the mountain kind of thing. No, we want to really hold ourselves to a moral standard. And a few scientists, great scientists, have attempted to bring this forward to the public. But because the public is fed an endless pablum of Hollywood and shameful incidents with children and all these things that are not entertaining, but distracting might be a way to say it. And they don't have the soul depth and the development of a soul depth that can actually contend with these forces that seem to be locked in warfare. I would say that I am one of the believers that good versus evil is going on here in a big way. And that's one of the reasons that we incarnate, is to come and test our mettle on these problems. And of course, who has come to such a situation before? I don't think anyone. I mean, I think back in history to Rome and Carthage and Alexandria, and all these Middle Eastern civilizations that were and had their own greatness, had their own job to do for humanity. But who has come to a mass society like America before? I don't think we've ever had anything like this. And certainly on the electromagnetic level alone, and we're not talking just radiation, but include radiation in that, because all electromagnetic things are radiating. And some of them are ionized and some of them are not ionized. But does that mean that one is good and one is bad? No, they're both bad. They're both hard on us as very sensitive creatures that the divine human being embodies is. So that's kind of the challenge here, is how I see it. Because if we just think about the science, so-called, it's very hard to even know quite what thinking about only the science is now, because the scientism is ruling everywhere and they lie all the time. There is nothing you can trust from those dedicated to scientism, because they are dedicated to power. It's like you've had to probably experience with the UFO, UAP movement and the Disclosure Project and all of these things. How much is true? Who's telling truth and who's lying? We're constantly forced into this dilemma of deciding what the truth is and what the lie is. This is what is building the human being to be a real human being, is to contend with these problems so that we can dig right in with our highest selves and figure out what shall we put our energy behind in our brief lifetime here. What shall we lend ourselves to, the best of ourselves, not just our appetites and our desires. So to me, that's the wonderful thing about my having met Clifford Carnicom, is he is the most ethical person I think I have ever met. He will be ethical to the nth degree if he decides that the science depends upon it. And that's something I admire very greatly. And so I have worked with him for about 20 years now, as he continues now to return to studying the blood. And this is the key. There were two things they were after, and we realized this 20 years ago. One was to change the atmosphere. And that, I would call that an epigenetic approach. Epigenetic, let's expand it a little beyond what some of the geneticists want to keep it for. Epigenetic has to do with using the environment to change the genetics of creatures. And that's what they've done. They've subjected us with no consent to changing our world, our nature, our atmosphere, the very air we breathe, so that our lungs and our blood and our brains are saturated with chemicals, nanotechnology, synthetic biology that we have no knowledge of. And in the road, the hell-bent road, and it is hell-bent, for transhuman race. And I guess the shocking thing that I would say at this point is that when all these people lined up, these billions of people lined up for the jab, that what we came away with in not just one jab, but 2 or 3 or more, what we now have is an actual transhuman race underway. And in order to follow it assiduously so that they know how their, quote, experiment is going. And that is the experiment they're running. This is not a vaccine experiment. No, this is a transhuman experiment. They have these people hooked up electromagnetically to the Bluetooth transmission to satellite, and the satellites are busy capturing all the biometrics, all the little bits and pieces of things that they can measure with numbers. They are catching all of that from these people, which is why they need these new data centers, because these new data centers will hold lots and lots and lots and lots of data that's going to continue, because this is just the first transhuman race. They're going to do more. And my role here, this is how I see myself, not Clifford. I can't speak for Clifford, but he is definitely concerned about the human race continuing, and as am I. I want to make sure, which is why I'm working so hard, pretty much 24/7 now, with 4 books out. I'm writing another one right now for Inner Traditions. My goal is to make sure that somehow we can keep at least a Homo sapiens human remnant race, because the transhumanism has gone that far that I certainly do not fool myself into thinking I can recall it.
I got a question for you on that. So you talk a lot about MK Ultra and the targeting and the remote neural control that they have crossed into this electromagnetic realm. Like, what technologies are currently in use or development, or do you think, and do you think we're seeing that rolled out on some of the targeted individuals? And how real is the threat of like centralized mind regulation, do you think?
Oh, we're there. We're absolutely there. There is no future tense in this. We are already there.
That's scary.
We're plugged into, and where I explain that in thorough detail, all the way from above the planet, around the equator, where they have constructed a, very much like Saturn, a ring made of metals. It's already there. And think of us as sandwich material between that and here on the Earth, all the infrastructure that's right here. I mean, cell towers, underground electrics, gas lines, everything you can think of that makes your life more comfortable and more convenient. This is what they call dual use technology. This is a military term. Dual use means it can be used in the military and it can be used in a civilian life. All of these things are calibrated to work together. Now, I don't have to blame reptilians for this. I don't have to import anybody from off planet or even underground, in the underground. And I know there's a lot of stuff going on underground. I understand that. I don't have to import anyone, because this is an entirely human affair of human beings who have abandoned their real humanity and have left a vacuum. And you know what they say about a vacuum. Nature abhors a vacuum. And so something has jumped in there and is utilizing these human beings in all their lost glory to take this planet from us and remove us, remove the human being who is the high human being, the spiritual human being, the one who is the one who takes care of the garden. There are some people who are really, really good. There aren't just the bad dudes. I know a lot of excellent people who have sacrificed immensely in order to carry this planet forward. And I hope I'm one of them, because I give as much as I possibly can to my job, which I'm very clear on, is to, because of my verbal skills, my writing skills, all of those things I've had all my life, to be able to tell the people, because I love people, all kinds of people. I love them. I am not one of those elites that is offended by people who have dirty fingernails, or who, eat bologna sandwiches or whatever they do. No, I love people. I want them to have that free will, and their attempts to make their free will in service to the highest good, the highest beauty, the highest truth. That is my intent. And so I use my skills, and everyone can use their skills. Not everybody has to do what I'm doing, in order to awaken as many souls as possible to what we are facing here. This is already a done deal. The space fence, which is hugely important, that second book is written in 2018, Under an Ionized Sky, from Chemtrails to Space Fence Lockdown. And I was helped in that book, I don't know if you know the name, but by a great soul who was an MK Ultra survivor, Billy Hayes. He was actually controlled by the military all his life as an MK Ultra. And Billy was programmed to be able to go and build things like HARP, and to build all of these phased array antenna infrastructure, radar units, etc., and basically electromagnetize the entire Earth. And he's the one who led me through writing Under an Ionized Sky, because he knew how it was done. And that's, I'm not trying to, make everybody depressed. This is part of being an adult, isn't it? We can all be kids and get high and, have fun, but we also need to do the adult thing here, which is to really pay attention to what those who are inimical to humanity are doing, and what they're setting us up for. And that's where I come in with what I write.
Yeah, that's amazing. One thing I wanted to ask you about was well, let me see what. Okay, you highlight partnerships like between big pharma, agribusiness, DARPA, and tech corporations. Who would you say the key players are driving these agendas?
Big pharma, for sure. And I would almost say, well, it would be big pharma and the military, but let's not leave out the intelligence agencies. Certainly the CIA. The CIA is not at all what people think it is. It's not an agency. It's a force. The CIA was founded by the Nazis and the Dulles brothers, Alan Dulles and John Foster Dulles, played a big role in hiding the fact that they brought in thousands of Nazis and basically turned over our bases and our hospitals and our universities to them. Those are the two gentlemen that I hope are burning now in some way. So the ability of these brotherhoods, and certainly the Nazis were very engaged with the Tool Society and other societies, secret societies. This is essential. That's that's a big reason why I'm a student of Rudolf Steiner. He has shown me the language, occult language, that all of these things are dependent upon. All of these things are dependent upon it. Controlling human society, all the architecture, all the things that we have heard rumors of, and some of us know more than rumors. The secret societies are in charge of just about everything now. Certainly the town I live in is absolutely run by the Freemasons. I have no question that this is going on here. So we need to wake up to that, turn the TV off. I've never owned a TV. Turn the cell phone off, get rid of it. I've never owned a cell phone. Divest yourself of too much electromagnetic influence. You already have enough to deal with. We have the grid under our feet, the geomagnetic grid. HARP is already controlling the crap out of that, along with CERN. CERN controls the magnetosphere, and that has to do with its connectivity to our grid that we are all subject to here on the earth. So, if we, and people who say, oh, well, I never liked science. Well, so what? You still have to study it. You're the one that wanted to be born into a technological era. So you have to study the science. I don't see any question in that. I don't have a PhD in physics. I found my way through life itself. Life itself guides us, and we need to do what we need to do by following its guidance. And by life, I don't mean, partying until 6 a.m. and, having lots of fun and fulfilling my desires. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about life itself is depending upon us to keep it going here when our enemies want to turn us all into machines and the entire planet into a machine, much like Saturn is now. And that is true, that Saturn at one time was truly a planet, and then something happened to it that looks an awful lot like what's attempting to happen to us. So that's, did I answer
Wait a
your
minute.
question?
No, I find this fascinating. So you think there was actual life on Saturn that they weren't telling us about? And do you think because of these agendas that these evil people have, or even whatever, like that they're doing this to each planet around the solar system?
No, I'm not going to go that far. No, I can't go that far, because this is the only planet that has the human being on it. The human being, as much as many people want to level it to something equal to and parallel to an insect's life, that is just not true. I mean, look at our brains. Look at how the extraordinary skills that we have, multiple skills. We have been divinely made to do a variety of things. And that we come to this planet and piss our time away and don't develop ourselves with these amazing skills we have. I mean, I have developed my mind. I remember standing in front of the mirror in the bathroom of my father and stepmother's house when I was 13. I'm completely naked, a young girl, look at myself in the mirror, and I say to myself, I'm going to live for my mind, because this beauty will not last. Now, who was that speaking there? That was my higher self that knew exactly what lay in front of me, that the beauty would go. Yes, of course. And that I could develop a mind that could serve humanity and the future of humanity. I mean, how much greater can you become than to be part of that kind of a scenario?
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a really good point. Yeah, you're bringing up really good points. One thing I wanted to bring up was you're in your view, how do aerosol programs and ionospheric heaters complement each other? Like, what do we have, like, real world evidence that they're being used together to do this?
Yes,
stuff?
they absolutely need the aerosol programs, which is why I'm very interested in this latest move by 12 states that are appealing to their legislatures to protect them from the chemtrails. Now, they don't know nearly what I know, right? They don't know about the secret space program, I'll bet. They don't know about the weapon system that this represents. To them, if they can get rid of the chemtrails, they can control the geoengineering going on. Well, in a way, that's true. If they could, what the chemtrails give to this program is very easy to understand. It's a lot of what the military calls chaff. And, they mainly use aluminum, which is unfortunate because aluminum destroys us. Of course, we have aluminum in the vaccines that we give brand new babies. So I guess, we want to just start destroying people as soon as possible. So they use aluminum. It has 4 times the surface area of other metals, heavy metals, and it's cheap. And they also use coal dust, you might call it. They use a chaff because they have to have our atmosphere filled with something tangible. You can't have the electromagnetic communications that have to go on in our atmosphere. The wireless communications cannot function in a vacuum. They will not transmit in a vacuum. They have got to have particulates. They've got to have that. So if you could control the chemtrails alone over your state, you would probably have to give up your wireless connectivity to a large degree because you wouldn't be able to do that without the particulates. And that's sort of the price that we pay for fast movie downloads and all the gewgaws that we think we can't live without, video games and all that. And so I'm watching with great interest how this is going to be done. What are these? We already had the movement in 2001, Dennis Kucinich, a representative of the state of Ohio. He brought HR 2977, and he tried to, his was much more courageous, and he understood, because this was only 3 weeks after 9/11, he understood that this was a weapon system. And so he attempted to pass HR 2977 in his state of Ohio, but it was thrown to committee and killed there. And then his career and possibly even some of his family paid the price for his having attempted to do that. But it's in that bill. You can read it on the internet, HR 2977, that he calls chemtrails a weapon system. He literally calls them a weapon system. So, and his attempt was that this was really a space act. He wanted to keep the United States from turning space into a launch pad for weaponry. And unfortunately, that's too late because the ionosphere is completely controlled by HAARP now, ever since 2013. And you can find that video. That is still up and running on the internet, free for you to see the session at the University of Alaska at Fairbanks, interviewing the U.S. Air Force and DARPA about that control. So these are the kinds of details in the devil's den, right? The devil's been doing this in front of our faces all these years, but we have no idea what is going on in front of our faces. And it's time that, Sleeping Beauty woke up, Sleeping Beauty being the higher self of the human being, instead of the materialistic, self-interested, my personal life is everything individual. We need more. We need more than that. We need people who care about humanity in general and understand that the divine has been shaken out of humanity by those who do not want us to know what a high species we really are. They want us to think we're just all couch potatoes and we're all fools and stupid and don't deserve to live. And we're just slabs of meat, or as the CIA likes to call us, wetware, for software, hardware, and wetware. So now they're turning us into wetware, and they're going to run us with 5G and 6G. And if you think 6G is not here yet, you're wrong. They put it up at the same time they did 5G, and that is a terahertz size wave. That is a scary, scary wave. Okay, so let's all wake up and start really learning, really studying, not just pretending like, we live in America so we can do what we want and who cares about anyone else. And let's get down to it. Let's get down to work.
Yeah,
I certainly have been down to work for years.
Yeah, and it's crazy, some of these other countries, they don't spray their people, so why they're doing this to them, or they're doing this to America? It's
no, it's not just America. It's NATO. All NATO countries have
it's all NATO, so everybody's getting
sign
sprayed
on the dotted line to agree to spraying. Yes, and they also have to contribute. I don't remember how many thousands of dollars per year to the spraying program, because they've all bought the story that it's all about carbons and and cars, and it's all our fault, and that whole nonsense thing that was all contrived. So yeah, lots of lies. Lots of lies. What do you do when, say, you're in a family and you've got one family member, maybe an older man, who always lies, even when he doesn't have to? He lies. What do you do when you have someone like that poisoning your family? You can't kill him. You could lock him up if you could prove that he's lying. You could lock him up in a mental institution or put him on heavy drugs or something. But basically, I think you have to counter every single lie and say, nope, I'm not buying that. Here is what is true. I've done my research. I've got proof here. Maybe not for a court of law, but certainly the court of public opinion. And here it is. I think we all have to begin doing that and stop cowering in the shadows, hoping somebody else will do our job.
Yeah, I agree. So how do you think we can dismantle this? Is it possible to even do so?
If we can understand it first, and actually, I mean, imagine making a presentation to the UN of what geoengineering really is doing. Imagine
Yeah.
that. I mean, that's a fantasy and a half. Certainly, most of the members would not be there because they don't want to know. But you could at least get it on the record that this all was said, and it's all from having all of us gathering, instead of each of us trying to be king of the mountain, like I have to deal with in the anti-geoengineering movement. In some people, we work together as a team. We work together to put the truth forward and stop lying ourselves and stop, I don't know. That's the best I can. What I want is a human solution. I don't want AI to figure this out for us. First of all, AI couldn't figure this out for us. But I want humans to develop while they're figuring this out, and to finally care enough that this is real, and that we need to really put some energy into this not on the back burner, not when we have time when we're not, playing video games, but front and center, front and center, so that as if humanity depended upon us, which it does.
Yeah, yeah. Seeing what other questions I have for you here. Hold on, let me see here. Somehow I lost my notes. I don't know how that's even possible. I feel like they're messing with me. Honestly, I think they took it down. Like
I think you're probably right. It happens a lot with me, because of course, they follow me. Well, they follow Clifford too. They follow anyone who's got a handle on some of the truth. Always.
Yeah. They just totally just deleted my notes. So, I mean, well, let me ask you this because we have a pretty big. We're on Rumble now. I went off YouTube and I just did Rumble because YouTube would probably pull the video, but we have a pretty decent audience going on Rumble. What is there anything else you'd like to address that, like, that people can get more involved, or or things we could do to like try to help this situation, or like, what do you think?
Well, I'm writing the synthetic biology book now. In the book, the recent book, the Geoengineered Transhuman, I start laying out how I'm going to talk about synthetic biology, because I mean, if what I just brought is bad news in the sense that we're more familiar with the term geoengineering, so I can kind of move it forward a little bit maybe and adjust it and things, because you've heard this before, but most people have no idea what synthetic biology means. And I would say that synthetic biology and nanotechnology are two of the worst things that are now happening to us. They're already in place. There will be more. They will continue to develop because very wealthy foundations and families are throwing masses, trillions of dollars at this because they know what it means. It means absolute AI control over all of humanity and really all of life. And that is what they want. They want to be as gods on this planet. They want to sort of thumb their noses at the creator God. And if you don't believe in a creator God, the concept even of a creator God. They want to run everything here. They want a human being, just to show you how low thinking they are. They want a human being that can get beyond the Van Allen belts. I mean, we've never even gone beyond the Van Allen belts. We don't. We can't face that radiation. That radiation. Now they can form our bodies out of silica, and they have all these things that are self-assembling, self-replicating, all this synthetic biology that they're shooting into us through the vaccination, I don't like to call them vaccinations. They're not vaccinations, but all of the vaccination program is pretty much faulty from here on out. So one thing that people could do right away, I can think of several things they can do. Since I'm on the vaccination word, let's talk about that. No vaccinations when a baby is born. None. Zero. Cut it. Get out of there. If you're in a hospital, get out, because it's all a 5G and a 6G system. And that baby is going to be affected. And if you get sick there and they tell you you have an infection, they're going to take advantage of you. I mean, these are palaces of death now, because they are all 5G and 6G. So I have not been to a Western doctor since I was 13. I'm 77. I do not need doctors. I have not needed doctors. If I were in a traffic accident, I'm happy that the Western advanced medical entities are there. That may help me as I rebuild my life. But as far as anything having to do with my health, this system has proven absolutely faulty and criminal. And so you want to know what I think you could do is wean yourself from that system. Start studying the old medicine, the old taking care of yourself, the old balanced medicine. I studied Chinese medicine when I was in my 20s. I thought I wanted to be a Chinese medical doctor because it made the most sense to me. It was a 5,000-year-old medical system based on balance, yin-yang, balance. And I didn't make it for that. Life turned me in a different direction, but I continued to use Chinese medicine my whole life. And I've never been sorry, because health is not taking a lot of medications from Big Pharma and making Big Pharma rich. Health is not cutting and surgery. It is not taking things out and putting somebody else's in place. All these things that the Western medical model, I thought about it one day when I was reading about it in, I don't know what book I was reading. And I said to myself, my God, they've been running a sort of like organ transplant criminal operation for all these years. You get people sick, then you convince them they need surgery. Then you take something out and you put something else in, you see how it goes. And if they die, then, well, that it didn't work, and yet you're not culpable. And so I suddenly realized that this is not a medical system. This is not a system of health. This is like you're running a lab and you need some specimens. So you put out some advertising of eating these fake foods, the GMO foods, the packaged foods, the refined foods. You say it's all fine. You have some doctors sign off on it. You give them some pay for doing that. I mean, think about it. That's how it's been done, and we've been supporting it with our health, with our children. Talk about child sacrifice. Holy cow. So let's think about all of this from a different perspective. Let's really do that. And then just very slowly make a few rules. I'm not going to go to the doctor if my child gets a temperature of 104. I'm going to instead, I don't know, use the cold bath treatment. I'm going to do this. I'm going to put comfrey leaves on the back of their neck. Whatever you're going to do. And take responsibility. Take responsibility and train yourself, teach yourself, read the old systems, see why they worked for many, many years. And homeopathy is one of the most brilliant things ever, and it goes back thousands of years. And we don't use it. So you see what I mean? We've gotten stupid, and we're just sort of waiting for the great white doctor to tell us what to do, and going and filling our prescriptions and taking these drugs. I mean, I don't get it. I haven't even had an aspirin in 50 years. I haven't even had an aspirin. I don't do drugs, any kind of drugs, other than good, natural, organic food. I don't eat GMOs except when I go to restaurants. I know I must be eating GMOs because they're trying to cut costs. And then I have to, take measures the next day to eat well so that I can retain my balance, because my balance is what makes me strong, makes my body strong, and therefore there to do my will as a free will human being. This is how I think. So I invite you to do that with me. The next thing I would recommend that people do is look at your electromagnetic toys in your system that you're surrounded by and minimize it. Minimize it. Do not take for granted that you're A-OK with all of these devices. You aren't. I promise you that. You may not break down for a while, but you know how the West is being broken down by all of this, by the medical industry and big pharma, by the autoimmune diseases that have sprung up like vipers all around us because our immune system is weak. We are not taking care of ourselves. Whoa, the great white doctor will take care of us. Not true. Not true. I don't care how great that doctor is. You have to do that out of your self-authority. So those are two things. And then one third thing I'll mention, and I'm going to write this. This is all going to be written in this next book I'm writing. The next thing I would recommend is make sure you have an inner life. If you don't have an inner life and you're pissing it away with drugs, and I include marijuana in that, I include alcohol. If you're just, it's kind of like eat, drink, and be merry because Rome is on fire. If that's your attitude and you're not really searching in yourself for the depth of your humanity and the divinity of your humanity, what are you doing? This is a great opportunity. You won't have this opportunity on the other side of death. That's a whole other ballgame. So you can only do these things here. Make sure you use your time well here because you're not here that long. I'm 77. I don't know. Maybe I can squeeze out another decade, but that's about it. And who knows what the CIA may have in store for me if I get irritating enough. So use the time you have for the greatest things, for the really wonderful, great things, so that when your grandchildren or your children look at you, they're looking at someone who's really human, really human. Yeah, I think that's great.
That was great. That was amazing. And wow, thank you so much. This was thank you, Elana. This was amazing. Do you want to tell people how they can get your book and how they can find you? And yeah, thank you again.
Yeah. Okay, so I recommend that you order my books up to the new one that has just come, though you could order the new one as well, from the Rudolf Steiner bookstore in Seattle, Washington. It's a very tiny bookstore, not your big bookstore. It's in the backyard in a shed, but support the small owners. And he carries everything I've written. And one of the things I've written that is not geoengineering is a series of 4 books called Sub Rosa America, A Deep State History, which is a fictional work I wrote, 1,300 pages, about America since John Kennedy's assassination and what the hell has happened to it. And I think some of you would really enjoy that. It has sort of a cult following of a few hundred people. I've never sold it per se in the sense of putting it forward because the geoengineering has seemed so important. But anyway, he sells all my books, and I'm very grateful to him for doing so. Otherwise, you can go to the evil Amazon. I'm glad it's there because it's a good backdrop. Otherwise, I think that's all. I have 4 books that are all dedicated to geoengineering, and then I have the Sub Rosa America series.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, well, I really enjoyed this, and I think the audience did too. It's a big so it's like we knew this stuff was going on, but this was a real wake up call.
I hope so. Rob.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, and thank you guys for tuning in today, and I guess we'll end it there, and have a good night, everybody, and thank you, Elana. And I'll see you guys maybe later on tonight. I'll be doing another live stream, but